Liam, a curious 14-year-old boy with an insatiable thirst for adventure, had always been fascinated by old, forgotten places. When his friends suggested exploring the abandoned Blackwood mansion on the outskirts of town, he was the first to agree. The mansion, a sprawling structure draped in ivy and mystery, had been left untouched for decades. Local legends spoke of strange occurrences and ghostly apparitions, but that only fueled Liam's excitement. The group of five, Liam, his best friend Max, the clever and resourceful Nora, the cautious yet brave Olivia, and the mischievous Jake, gathered their flashlights and backpacks, ready for a day of exploration. The mansion loomed before them, its once grand windows now shattered, and its doors creaking ominously in the wind. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the floorboards groaned under their weight. They split up, each drawn to different parts of the house. Liam found himself in a room that looked like an old study. The walls were lined with bookshelves, their contents covered in dust and cobwebs. As he ran his fingers along the spines of the ancient books, something caught his eye. A large ornate chest hidden beneath a thick layer of dust in the corner of the room. "Guys, come here," Liam called out. The others quickly gathered around him as he knelt beside the chest. The wood was aged and cracked, and the metalwork was intricate, depicting dragons and clouds. "It looks like it hasn't been touched in years," Nora remarked. With a deep breath, Liam opened the chest, the rusty hinges protesting loudly. Inside was a single leather-bound book, its cover emblazoned with strange symbols and more depictions of dragons. It was as though the book had been waiting for someone to find it. Max leaned in closer. "What do you think it is?" Liam gently picked up the book, feeling a strange warmth emanating from it. He opened it, revealing pages filled with ancient writing and a riddle inscribed in gold. "In the clouds the dragons soar, where hidden realms hide evermore. Solve this riddle true and wise, to open gates to the skies." The friends exchanged curious glances. "What do you think it means?" Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's eyes sparkled with excitement. "I think it's a clue, a riddle we need to solve." Hours passed as they pondered the riddle, their excitement growing with each passing minute. Finally, it was Nora who deciphered it. "It's talking about the constellations," she said, tracing the symbols on the page. "Look, these match the star patterns in the night sky. I think we need to align them correctly." They spent the next few hours studying the book and the constellations, adjusting their positions on a makeshift star chart they found in the study. As the final star fell into place, the room began to shake, and the book glowed with an intense light. The group stepped back as the light grew brighter, forming a swirling vortex above the book. The vortex expanded, revealing a portal that seemed to lead into the clouds themselves. Without hesitation, Liam took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "This is it," he said, looking back at his friends. "Are you ready?" With a collective nod, they stepped through the portal, leaving the old mansion behind. On the other side, they found themselves standing on a floating island in the sky, surrounded by an endless sea of clouds. The floating island was a breathtaking sight. The clouds beneath them moved like waves in a vast white ocean, and the air was crisp and cool. Liam and his friends stood in awe, their eyes scanning the horizon where dragons soared gracefully, their wings slicing through the air like knives. Each dragon was different. Some were sleek and fast, others were massive with scales that glistened like jewels in the sunlight. It was a scene straight out of a fantasy, but there was no time to marvel at the view. They had a mission. As they ventured deeper into the island, the friends came across a stone pathway lined with strange, glowing symbols similar to those in the book. The path led to a towering structure in the distance, a grand ancient temple that seemed to be the heart of the island. Without speaking, they knew this was where they needed to go. The inside of the temple was just as awe-inspiring as the island itself. The walls were covered in carvings of dragons and ancient figures who seemed to be guiding the majestic creatures. In the center of the room, on a raised platform, lay a large stone tablet covered in the same golden script as the book. Liam stepped forward, feeling the weight of destiny on his shoulders. He could sense that this was the key to taming the dragons. As he touched the tablet, the golden script began to glow, and a voice echoed in his mind, ancient and wise. To master the dragons, you must understand their hearts, for they are not beasts but spirits of the sky. Only those who bond with them through trust and respect may call themselves dragon masters, and soar through the clouds high. The message was clear. Taming the dragons wasn't about control or power. It was about forming a bond based on mutual respect. But how could they achieve that? The answer came from the temple itself. As the voice faded, a soft light illuminated a series of murals on the walls. They depicted the process of bonding with dragons. It began with understanding the dragon's nature and learning their language, an ancient form of communication through gestures, sounds, and emotions. The mural showed that each dragon had its own personality, and that a true dragon master would find a dragon whose spirit matched their own. The following days after their return from the floating island were a blur of excitement and intense preparation. Liam and his friends, now armed with the knowledge of dragon bonding, spent every waking moment honing their skills. They practiced the ancient gestures, refined their communication with their dragons, and studied the old book they had found in the mansion. The dragons, though majestic and powerful, were also complex beings, each with its own quirks and personality. The bond between Liam and his dragon, which he had named Ether, grew stronger with each passing day. Ether was a magnificent creature with deep blue scales that shimmered in the light and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. Liam found that Ether was fiercely loyal but also highly independent, a combination that required patience and understanding. They would spend hours together, flying through the skies, learning to move as one, and developing a language of their own. Max's dragon, Ember, was a fiery and unpredictable beast with scales that glowed like molten lava. Ember was fast and agile, but her temper was quick to flare. Max, who had always been the impulsive one, found himself learning the value of patience. Nora's dragon, Sylph, was as mysterious and elusive as the wind itself. With silver scales that seemed to blend into the clouds, Sylph was quiet and observant, much like Nora. Their connection was almost telepathic, with Nora often sensing Sylph's thoughts. Olivia, who had initially been the most cautious of the group, found herself paired with a gentle giant of a dragon named Terra. Terra was massive with thick green scales and a calm, patient demeanor. Despite his size, Terra was incredibly gentle. Jake's dragon, Zephyr, was the smallest and fastest of the group, with golden scales that reflected the sunlight. Zephyr was mischievous and playful, much like Jake, and their bond was based on a shared love of adventure and fun. As their skills grew, so did their confidence. But with confidence came a sense of unease. They knew that the world above the clouds held many secrets, and not all of them were benign. The book had hinted at dangers, ancient powers that lay dormant. One evening, as they gathered in the study of the old mansion, the book began to glow once again. Liam opened it, and new pages had appeared, filled with cryptic symbols and another riddle. In the heart of the storm where the skies turn black, where the winds howl and the dragons attack, lies the key to the power untold. But beware, for the heart is cold. The words sent a shiver down their spines. The heart of the storm, it sounded ominous, and the mention of attacking dragons was concerning. The next morning, they returned to the mansion, the portal opening with ease now that they had mastered the connection with their dragons. As they stepped through, they found themselves once again on the floating island, but this time the skies were dark. They mounted their dragons and with a shared glance took to the skies. The winds were strong, buffeting them from all sides, but they pressed on, flying towards the heart of the storm. As they approached, the skies grew darker, and the winds became more violent. Suddenly, out of the swirling clouds, came a group of dragons, massive, fearsome creatures with scales as black as night and eyes that glowed with an eerie red light. These were not like the dragons they had bonded with. These were wild, untamed beasts. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Liam remembered the words of the riddle. But beware, for the heart is cold. The heart of the storm, it wasn't just a place, it was a state of mind. The power they sought wasn't just physical, it was something deeper. With a final glance at the floating island, they stepped through the portal, leaving behind the world of dragons but carrying its lessons in their hearts. The days following their return from the storm's heart were filled with a sense of accomplishment and peace. The friends had grown closer, not just to their dragons but to each other. They spent their time practicing their newfound powers, honing their abilities, and preparing for whatever might come next. But even as they enjoyed the calm, a lingering sense of unease hung over them, a feeling that their trials were far from over. One evening, as they gathered in the old mansion, the book began to glow again. This time, however, the light was different, darker, more ominous. The pages turned on their own, revealing new symbols and a warning. The shadow returns when the light fades, a force of darkness in the sky's parade, to challenge the bond that you have made. Only together can its wrath be stayed. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. The mention of a shadow sounded like a threat, something far more dangerous than anything they had faced before. What do you think it means? Max asked, his usual bravado subdued by the gravity of the situation. Liam studied the text carefully, feeling a cold chill run down his spine. I think something is coming. Something that threatens not just the floating island but our world too. We need to be ready. Before they could discuss it further, the room began to tremble. The air grew thick with a strange energy, and the book's light intensified. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the book, and the friends found themselves back on the floating island. But this time it was different. The once peaceful skies were now dark and stormy, filled with swirling black clouds. The vibrant colors of the island had faded. It was as if the island itself had been consumed by a powerful, malevolent force. Their dragons were there, waiting for them, but they too seemed different. Aether's deep blue scales were dim, Ember's fiery glow was reduced to a faint flicker, and the others showed similar signs of distress. Without a word, they mounted their dragons and took to the skies, searching for the source of the darkness. As they flew, they noticed that the island's creatures, the birds, the animals, even the trees, were all unnaturally still, as if frozen in time. The silence was deafening. As they neared the heart of the island, they saw it. A massive swirling vortex of darkness, hovering above the crystal that had once been the heart of the storm. The crystal was now cracked and dull, its light nearly extinguished. The vortex pulsed with energy, sending out waves of darkness. This is bad, Olivia whispered, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. Liam nodded, his mind racing. We have to stop it, whatever it is. But we can't just charge in, we need a plan. Nora, always the strategist, spoke up. We need to find out what's causing this. The book mentioned a shadow. Maybe it's some kind of entity or force that's feeding off the island's energy. If we can find it, we might be able to stop it. Or at least weaken it, Jake added, his usual humor replaced by determination. With a plan in mind, they flew towards the vortex. As they drew closer, the air grew colder, and the darkness seemed to press in on them from all sides. It was like flying through a nightmare, with the once beautiful island now a twisted and corrupted version of itself. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the skies. The vortex split open, revealing a massive, shadowy figure within. It was a dragon, but unlike any they had seen before. Its scales were pitch black, absorbing the light around it, and its eyes glowed with a sickly greenish hue. It was the embodiment of the darkness, the shadow. The shadow dragon spread its wings, and with a powerful beat, sent a shockwave of dark energy towards them. The force of the blast knocked them back, nearly sending them crashing into the ground. Aether recovered quickly, but Liam could feel the strain in their bond. Max and Ember were the first to strike back. Ember unleashed a torrent of flames, but the fire barely touched the shadow dragon before being swallowed by the darkness. Max gritted his teeth, pushing Ember to try again, but it was no use. The shadow dragon was too powerful.